Fantastic. Today we are live with the Alex Hoffmann. Thank you so much for coming on. Alex, how are you keeping today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. That's the second time and I really appreciate it.
Amazing. We enjoyed it so much. We had to come back for more. So today we're going to be speaking to Alex about engineering growth. Alex moved from SaaS scale-ups to B2C brands and agency teams and has spent most of his career building growth and strong growth systems. So today is all about growth, and more
Yeah.
growth. So everyone that is interested in learning about building up their teams, maintaining a strong team, we are going to be chatting a lot about that today. So if anyone has any questions as well, pop them in the comment section for us and we'll be sure to answer them. To kick things off, Alex, I wanted to, just for the listeners that are tuning in, can you let us know a little bit about your career journey and how you got over to where you are now over at Passion Digital?
Yeah, sure. So I started in SEO. I've done, 12 years, 13 years in SEO. That was mixed with different roles in there. But yeah, I started as a technical SEO person, but straight away I really liked tech. So I built scripts and everything. I really wanted to make the job as easy as possible, even when I started. So I did that for a few years. Then I became a head of analytics where it was a bit of a rogue move, but there was a need in the company I was working for. And I thought, why not learn something new? So I was working with anything data analytics at that time. And then moved away from analytics back into SEO, into my current agency now at Passion Digital, where I headed up the SEO team. And there was a content team as well, with a head of content. So I started there as a head of SEO and then slowly took over the content team. We merged actually two departments together and I was building tools and tech still. So I was head of tech, trying to optimize and make our job as easy as possible, but also always be at the forefront of innovation. And in the last couple of years now, I've been managing partner. In the last few months now, I'm working on growth. So my new role is head of growth director and innovation. So it's a bit of a weird role, I would say. So people think growth director is about sales. So my role is not necessarily 100% about sales. It's split between new business, where it's in PPC, paid media, or SEO. I work on every touch point. But my other part of the role is growth in terms of service lines and innovation. So how can we grow our agency? Not necessarily about having more, but being more efficient. So having the right tech stack, the right AI. And how can we train, upskill the team so they can grow with the times, and so we can compete against other agencies, because times are hard for every agency out there. So we need to be better, faster in any way. So that's basically my role at the moment, and that's how I got there.
Awesome. Sounds like a very exciting and sustainable, positive space that you're in right now.
Yes.
And I think you mentioning, keeping your team up to date with AI and all things like updated at the moment. There's so much whiplash happening at the moment with all the updates coming from every way, shape, and form. When you mentioned you worked across different sectors and business models, what are some sort of non-negotiables that you consider when you're approaching your strategy with your team in today's climate?
So I would say the first thing is discoverability. So it's not only about SEO anymore. So in whatever industry you work at, you have TikTok, ChatGPT, it's everywhere. So you can't just rely on one place to get your traffic anymore. Those times are gone. The industry is changing. The behaviors are changing. And so, like, for example, if you say, yes, we know that for B2C or retail, because this has been like that for a long time already. Social media, you can buy on TikTok, etc. But what we're looking at the moment, we specialize more in B2B and lead gen, is that it's happening there as well. That younger people are getting to these industries, and the roles are changing, and people are looking for more information. The buying journey is so long sometimes in these industries. We're talking 6 months, a year for some of them in big SaaS or network companies. the research now is done on every platform. So you'll have deep research on ChatGPT will give you great information about the options you have. So for me, a non-negotiable is to look outside just your traditional SEO and PPC. That comes into the omni-channel view. Basically, you need to be consistent across every platform. You can't be just good on one place. You can't have these amazing campaigns on LinkedIn, these lead gen campaigns that say, oh, we're amazing, nice creatives, etc. And then you land on the website and you say, oh God, who are these people? They're trying to sell me a dream. So it's this consistency and personalization that's getting more and more and more important. Then I would say being agile. I'm not talking about the framework agile. It's just being happy to test and learn. As you said, things are changing fast and every day. So you need to have that mindset that not everything will work. So for us agencies is managing expectations and building trust. So yes, agility, test and learn mindset is are the non-negotiables to me at the moment.
Awesome, I love that. And just on that, I know you talked about consistency across for the brands. How do you get your team on board, whether it be sort of the SEO, the paid team, to make sure that they're all on the same page for that client and that everybody's communicating in that same sort of brand of voice?
Yeah, so I think historically we've already been very siloed. So that comes even outside the brand itself. I think people need to work as a team and people need to have a common goal. So I think the great example is content versus SEO or versus paid. Usually paid are very have a commercial acumen, and I'm going to say something that is not true. I'm just going to caveat. And then the content, they only care about creativity and not the revenue. And that's the spectrum towards the spectrum we work with. But I think everybody has a view on the business, what they're trying to achieve, have this commercial mindset. It's a lot easier to get everybody on board to create something that's consistent and everybody knows the end goal. If you tell writing this content is great, but what's the end goal of this content is to inform X, Y, and Z, then I say, okay, cool. So that should inform sales team. Great. So then they work with the sales team to create it, and then it becomes more commercial. So there's more consistency across board if you get everybody involved from the get-go.
Awesome.
What strategies do you sort of implement, I think, from your personal approach that help you ensure alignment across the board with different teams?
I think it's communications. You need, it's always, not every team will want the same things. And actually that's something I'm passionate about, is how do you get people to do stuff that they don't want to do? Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. We come in as other agencies or specialists of a channel, and we come in and say, right, we're going to do all of this and we're going to make them do stuff. I think the best strategies to do so is to understand their problems. First is to understand where are the blockers, what keep them up at night, what are their targets, what are their worries, etc. And work with everybody in the team to understand that. Because once you know all of this, you'll have a better view on how to help them. And only then you can work with the strategy with them. Because if he has no value for them, there's going to be a blocker. Everybody's busy, everybody's stacked. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a job. And that's the reality today. Marketeers today do, especially in-house, they do anything and everything. They run events, they run webinars, they do everything. They cut videos, they write content. There's never enough time. So the best strategies always work if you start by understanding their problems and how to give value to them before actually thinking about the business. Mm-hmm. It's all about the people that you work with.
Love that. Yeah, I think just moving on to that, which is a question that transitions quite nicely into this, is also in terms of the communication, how do you balance short-term performance metrics versus long-term performance metrics with brand equity and market positioning?
So it's always a tricky one, because as agencies, I'm going to put it as for us as an agency, not in-house, but it's roughly similar. Obviously, the long-term goal is where you're going to get the most value. but companies have quarterly board meetings and they want results tomorrow. So I think the way I tend to do it is to reverse engineer the big goal. So if you take a spreadsheet, you get where do you want to go? Who do you want to be in 3 years? Who do you aspire to be? And we did this exercise for our own agency. And we're working towards it. Is like the goal is to be the number one agency or number one recognized agency in X sector, for example, or whatever the business. And you know that will take time. So you say, okay, this is the goal. Then you break it down into different tactics, and these tactics have their own strategies and their own measurement and their own KPIs. So then you can measure real time the needle moving. So you know that first you're going to have a bit more clicks. You get more clicks, it's great. You get more impressions and people see you more, but this is not the end. Clicks is a vanity metric. But then you say, oh, cool, after 6 months, we have better lead value because we've been optimizing, creating content, and the content has been tracked as well. And only then you can look at it and then say, okay, great, there's been a year, 2 years we're doing that. Has our brand search volume changed? Or what's the perception of our brand in the industry? That doesn't happen overnight. And people know that. Obviously, people will say they want it overnight, but people can understand that building a brand takes time. I think what you need to do is to always have these key milestones along the way to really prove that you're moving things, and choosing KPIs that will impact the other. So it will be slowly rolling down the hill like a snowball, and they get slow and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And if I had image it, that would be like that. But that's the way I would do it.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I
think.
Sorry. When sort of agencies or even in-house brands are at different sort of stages throughout their growth, do you have to hire for different personalities depending on where they're at that current growth stage? So, for example, maybe somebody at like sort of startup level, they need people who are a bit more aggressive, fast-paced, and as they sort of progress, that's a bit more maybe controlled.
That's a trick one. That will depend on the startup. I mean, I know a few people who work at startups, and I know their mindset. I would say you need. It's a very specific type of people that I believe, in my opinion, that can work in this type of environments. Like working in a law firm and working in a startup is day and night. Some people you can't do. If you can do both, great on you. But usually one can't do the other. Is because if you're in a startup, you need to be able to work fast, yes, but it's not only the speed, is the ability to not look at creating perfection every time you do stuff, because if you aim for perfection, you will miss the mark. It takes too long. So it's the ability to constantly learn, apply new stuff, break stuff, and that takes a very specific type of people that are able to do that. Like for us, it's a bit different. We're not a startup anymore, but we still try to recruit people that have a mindset, that learning mindset, because everything is evolving in this space. Like if you don't have a learning mindset, after 3 years, you're just left behind.
Yeah, big time. 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks it changes.
Okay.
It actually ties quite nicely into my next question, and apologies, I think I may have been cutting out a little bit. But just tying into the previous question, which was measuring short-term metrics versus long-term metrics, as well as having your team having to learn every 2 weeks nowadays. How is your approach to managing metrics with the, I guess, evolution of AI and things like the updates now that are happening? Has your approach changed to measuring those metrics, and are there any particular things that you include in assessing for that now?
So, I mean, we just talked yesterday about AI and LLMs and etc. So I think the metrics haven't changed that much. I think clicks will always be a vanity metric. People love it, but it's not what you're trying to aspire. It's in the B2B space, is leads, quality leads, and sales. But then for content, you track the classic ones. I mean, that hasn't changed much over the years. I think what's changed the most now is LLMs and the visibility within them. So they're massive. the traffic coming from it is not massive yet. But I think businesses need to start to understand how their brands, visibility and ranking are in these platforms. I think there's going to be a brand new set of metrics that will be included in any report now for in SEO. I mean, SEO should be GEOs now. There's no 10 ways around it. You need to be open to it. And I think things like visibility, rankings, number of citations, all of this will become a day-to-day. It will become day-to-day KPIs in this world.
Awesome. And just building off of that, you did also mention about measuring. You mentioned about using KPIs to measure the success for the right content and the effectiveness of content and growth framework.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to slide that question in as well, because I definitely want to pick your brain a little bit about that.
So that comes in from one of the reasons why we merged the SEO and content team back in the day was, let's come back to that because that would explain everything. So we had two sets of KPIs. We had ranking and impressions that were sent to the client, and then the SEOs were looking at commercial pages and conversions. And I wasn't happy with that because everything needs to build towards conversion. At the end of the day, they're all businesses, and everything we do needs to lead to money. Even branding and creative, we don't do it just for fun. We do it to increase revenue. So we can look at the classic KPIs, so reach, rankings, etc. But I would go further down the funnel. I said some articles can generate revenue. We have a few clients where we write content, and they actually drive quite a fair amount of leads in the medical space. But I would say also look at the assisted conversions. How many articles have been read that linked to a conversion? How can you prove the value of your content? And gone are the days now, I think, where we said content is king and we need to generate 20 articles a month. People don't do that anymore. So it's going to be a lot more specific now. So everything that we create, we need to have a framework that says, why did you create it? Who is it for? How are you going to measure it? What are the KPIs? What is the commercial landing page linked to it? So you create that page to fit a hub or a commercial purpose. How will you measure the impact from one to the other? So I would create a framework like this for every piece of content. We shouldn't create a piece of content that says, well, you don't know what's it for. Basically, we don't create content just for the sake of it anymore.
Awesome. And Alex, with the sort of more emphasis on like social search and stuff like that in a minute, how are you guys sort of like adapting to that in terms of like your sort of SEO process?
Yeah, that's a funny one. It's a tricky one because historically SEOs are not social people. I mean, I'm not. I hated social media until I had to learn how to use TikTok. I like it, but we need to. The way we approach it now, and the way we work with the team is, we need to. The number one thing is we need to recognize where is it worth, when and where is it worth to rank for. So there's keywords. There's no worth on spending 20, 30 grand in 6 months trying to rank position 1 when there's 10,000 searches a month. When on TikTok or Instagram, there's 3 million impressions for the same hashtag. You know, it's a completely different game. So the way we approach it now is for every time we create something, we'll have a look at, is it worth it? Yes or no? And what's happening in the other platforms? Like, is my 800 word blog post is going to cut it? So look at the other platforms as actually not, because there's like 20,000 videos that are a lot better. So don't create something that's shit when something is better already online. So we're moving towards this. It's not a foolproof, how do you say that, framework just yet, because everybody's trying to migrate to it. And unfortunately, social media are quite bad at giving data away, unlike SEO. So I think we need to be just more open about creating content and talking to our clients. Video is going to be big. It's already big. It's going to get bigger. And nobody really likes it because it takes time. It's a lot easier. Now with AI, everybody loves just chuck it in ChatGPT and get an article out. But video, people don't like video. Like it's especially in the B2B or corporate business, they don't want to do video. But this is where the world is going. There's more videos in the search results. Google is now crawling and parsing videos as well. It's going to be on Gemini. It's a mindset shift. So every time we do keyword research, have a look as well as what's on YouTube, what's on TikTok, and make sure that you cover as much as possible.
Love that. And how do you, I suppose, sort of like achieve that buy-in then from clients to sort of push that video content? Because say the likes of like Ryanair, or is it like Duolingo as well, like really big brands on like TikTok and things like that. So they've basically dominated their own niche. Like EasyJet can't come on and do it because they're just going to be seen as copycats. How do you sort of get that buy-in?
That will be through trust. I mean, you can't just come in and say, let's do video. We're starting to do that with clients that have been with us for 3 or 4 years. We've had great results in SEO. Mm-hmm. And we're slowly integrating now. Could we do FAQs or talking heads or things like we're doing today? How can we integrate this into your strategy? I get it. Not everybody wants to be on TikTok. And I'm not saying everybody has to be on TikTok. Because obviously TikTok is more UGC, but there's a lot of things you can do on YouTube that might appear more professional, though there's some content. I mean, I've seen law firms on TikTok. Yeah. The content is great. The content is amazing. So again, you need to find the right person in the company as well. Don't ask the shyest person in the business to do this because he'll quit or she'll quit. Find the person who likes it and try to leverage this, So it's as many ways you can do it, but I think the best way I think if you want to get the attention is take the competition. If they do something, it will be quicker because they're going to want to replicate. If they don't, it's going to be a bit harder because the competition is not doing it. But then you need to sell in to being the first. It's all about persuasion. It's about persuasion, and the only way you get this is by having like an ironclad relationship with your clients or your stakeholders, and they trust you. And for this, you need to have good results in the past.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
I've returned with my notorious 2-part questions, but I actually, the first part is actually just touching on communication, as a managing partner, not a lot of, I guess, employees are blessed with bosses that understand the extent of social media, jumping on trends, doing all of these things. So do you have any tips, I guess, for improving that communication to their higher ups of the importance of building a brand like this? And then the second part is kind of a question that we had prepped initially, which is what emerging digital marketing trends are you watching closely today, and which do you think are overhyped?
Yeah. I mean, I strongly believe that change like this needs to come from the top down. Unfortunately, you can't go in, and I'm going to say law firm for sake of argument, you can't go into a traditional law firm tomorrow and say, we need to do TikTok. That will not work. Unfortunately, you can show examples, you can try to test and learn. If your higher ups give you the bandwidth to do it, I'd definitely try it. Try a few videos, see how it works, test it, But you can also do that with your own account. Or your own face on the company's account. There's many ways to do it, but I still believe that, unfortunately, things like this needs to come from the top down. Otherwise, it's like hitting yourself against the wall. There's companies that will not change.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that's a bit annoying. In terms of the trends, I mean, I want to be boring about this, but for me, social search in the B2B space, social search and LLMs, bit of talk about AI in general. It's not really AI, as in we're not building machine learning systems. But the trends, I look a lot at new tools, especially on the SEO space. Everybody's claiming now to do SEO instead of you. Which is not true. So we're following that closely. We're following what impact have these AI agents, etc., on businesses, because that's going to be big as well. As I said earlier, productivity and effectiveness, etc., will be number one for businesses in the next few years because of the economy. We need to be faster, we need to be better, and now there's tools to do it. So one of the trends that follow is the automation. How can you automate stuff? And I think for people coming into the industry, or people who have been here for the last 10 years in the industry, who have not jumped into it, I think that's a trend they need to start looking into. And I'm not talking about building the new SEM rush. I'm talking about connecting a tool to another that you do every day. Little things like this that could make you better. And then there's LLM in general. At the moment, I think it's 0.3% of the traffic goes through ChatGPT compared to 97% on Google. So it's not the number one priority for anyone, but ChatGPT is the 6th or 8th biggest website now, used website in the world, and like it's been 2 years. So it will keep growing, and it's important to understand how they work and to understand how they generate content and your brand is perceived, because a lot of people will in the future, they won't buy on ChatGPT just yet, but they will do some research to some extent on ChatGPT. Maybe they won't trust it, they will go to Google, but things will change. So I think that's something that's very important. The brands can, for cheaply, start investigating and understanding their brand, their servicing, and its perception in the LLMs.
Awesome. And Alex, we've seen quite mainly actually more in the US side, like SEO roles that are merging into more sort of growth roles as well. Starting to become a bit of the norm. We're seeing roles where SEOs are required to have like extreme sort of like Python knowledge to build like custom scripts. Another one for like be like really clued in terms of AI, like build custom GPTs, custom AI workflows, like you mentioned there before. What sort of advice, or where do you see it going in terms of what SEOs can start implementing at the minute to become a growth consultant in the next few years?
I think, before AI was there, that's what I did when I started with Python, Python and JavaScript. I think where the world is going is AI will not replace people, they will replace some jobs. And a big part of SEO is very repetitive, very boring, and something that a machine can do. So the more we go towards better AI and better system, you'll have the people who can understand how it works and create systems to automate the work. And then you'll have the creatives and the brand people. And this will not be replaced. It's impossible. It's about emotion. And machine learning can't do emotion. It can get you all the data, but the best campaigns, sometimes the best advertising campaigns that happen, were based on emotion and a gut feel. I think that will work because it's completely mad. And AI would have never been able to do that. So I think we need that spark. So you'll have the creative, the brands, and then you'll have the engineer that will make SEO a lot more automated. Because then what is SEO? It's information architecture, internal linking, analysis of content, entities mapping. All these things ultimately 60 or 80% at the moment can be done with a tool because it's tech. And then there's the content side. The content side, writing blog on ChatGPT is not great, but you can create agents that can create amazing content if you can connect your sub results, your entities, different models, tone of voice, etc. We're getting very, very near something that's very good and a lot better than half the copywriters that exist, because there's good and bad everywhere. And so that's where it's going. I think SEOs today needs to start looking at this, and they are already. The people who start are looking at this already. They're a lot more tech savvy than some people that started 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask, which transitions nicely into the next question. There's this sort of like consensus or idea that senior and junior people are more adaptable and kind of more safe in the job spectrum than mid-level people that are like kind of like trying to work their way up. Do you have any advice to those people in that mid-level position that are trying to sort of navigate Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, it depends on the industry, I suppose. I think there was on the big tech and SaaS where we see in the news, like first they fired all the juniors, and then they say, well, all the seniors says, what are we going to do now? We have no one to do the work because the seniors don't want to do the work. So no, I think always like, and this is not in today's. It was like this 20 years ago. Is always try to prove the value. And if something doesn't work in the path you're going, try to switch. You know, when I said earlier that I became head of analytics, the reason I was head of analytics is because there was a head of SEO that wouldn't leave. And I said, well, that's it. My progression, either I can wait like this and wait for the person to leave, or I can take matters in my own hands, learn a new skill, and carry on moving. But you can't just wait. You need to find the space. It's not going to be handed to you. Find the space, find the skill, find the problem in the company you work at, try to solve it, build a case. It's not happening overnight. I think it took me 6 months. But just find the place where you can provide value. It's all about providing value. So that's at any level.
Sure, I love that.
My advice.
Just to quickly, I think, end off, I guess, sort of popcorn question is, I love leaving this to the end, but what are your sort of overviews or foresights for the future of digital marketing at the moment and maybe the next,
Sorry, I didn't catch the question. Sorry, what are the?
Do you have any forecasts for the digital marketing industry for the next, I guess, rest of 2025?
Forecast in terms of what's going to happen in the industry. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have a lot more people. It's going to be all about LLMs in the next 6 months. I know it's a hype a bit at the moment, but I think the forecast will be businesses will really try to work on that. And I think businesses will hire a lot more people. That's my take. They will hire a lot more people that can automate.
Cool. Awesome.
I think if you can do twice the amount of work in half the time, you're a better prospect to be hired. I think is a skill set. It's basically having the commercial acumen, is understanding how you can provide value to the business, and the more value you can provide, and that's going to be growing and growing in the next foreseeable future.
Awesome. Love that. Alex, that wraps up our time. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you. I know to a lot of people that were in the comments as well. If you guys want to follow Alex, his LinkedIn will be somewhere here. Thank you so much, Alex, for joining us and for your insights. It was such a insightful chat. And
thank you for inviting me.
Hope you have a good Friday, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you. And you too. Cheers.
Alex. Cheers.
Bye-bye.